Waseem played in the fitness test, you will compromise on the selection of the players or go on the result of the fitness test?
Absolutely not do we ever compromise on fitness standards. And I think on this tour, our fitness standards and fielding were not where they needed to be. That's acceptable when you see the likes of the young Abid Ali, Hussain, guys like that hadn't been in our setup before, guys like that didn't know the standards expected. We work with those guys. Guys that have been in our setup for a long period of time, who know what the standards are, we will never ever compromise on that fitness. So all of our key players, I have no doubt, are fit enough and ready to go to the World Cup. It's our bench strength players, it's our players that sit just under our setup that are a worry, and how we pull those guys to the level is going to rest on themselves, and is going to rest on the structure to give them that education, to make sure when they step up into our side, they're ready to go and they're at the level required that we expect of them.
Mehdi, Umar is not playing well. Is it your first choice for World Cup, candidate for World Cup, and second, maybe you can rank Haider?
Sorry, the first one was that Mohammed Rizwan. Muhammad Amir. Muhammad, look, I rate Muhammad Amir highly, and everybody knows that. I think he's a wonderfully skilled bowler. I think he's got big match temperament. Muhammad Amir rises to the occasions when we need him to rise to the occasions. He would be the first to admit, though, that his form hasn't been good. It's not necessarily his form, it's the fact that he hasn't struck, he hasn't taken wickets. Inzi and I will sit down, we'll make that decision in the next couple of days along with the selection panel. Abid Ali was very impressive this tour, very impressive. Abid Ali came into the setup, his attitude, his work ethic, the extra little bit of work he did through the tour was incredible. He's a hungry man who wants to play cricket for Pakistan. So I'm incredibly impressed with Abid Ali, incredibly impressed with everything he brought to the side, and I thought the 100 he got on debut was a very, very good innings.
Hi, Mehdi, Essence from Breakfast. Before the series, you mentioned that there are at least 4 cases that are to be finalized from this tour. But over the course of the tour, we have seen some youngsters grabbing the opportunity in terms of Hafid Ali, Mohammad Rizwan, Mohammad Hassan. But more importantly, we have seen some of the mainstays failing. And I'm talking about in terms of Muhammad Amir, Shoaib Malik, Imam. So do you think, so is there any doubt in your mind and in the selection committees about more places than the 4 that you have talked about earlier?
Look, I think myself and Inzi was over there. Inzi and I spoke a lot. We spoke after every game. We're very clear in the direction we want. We're very clear in the team that is going to represent Pakistan at the World Cup. As I say, we'll meet I'm meeting our coaches this afternoon. We've got individual player plans for every one of our players that have come back. Those individual player plans will be a build up to the England tour for the guys that we're wanting to take. Inzi, myself, and the selectors will sit down, I guess, in the next couple of days and start our final work towards that World Cup squad. We'll have fitness testing around April 14, April 15. We've just got to, we'll work that back in terms of our individual planning today. And then pretty much soon after that, once I've met with Inzi today, we'll have a date on when the World Cup squad will be announced.
Coach, do you think Umar selection was a mistake? Is still not finished with his batting and fitness?
All I can say, Umar Akmal's attitude through the tour was very good. All I can say is that Umar Akmal arrived there, he worked exceptionally hard, he trained hard. He tried very hard to impress in all areas, and he'll be disappointed he didn't get a big innings.
you are satisfied ODI results against Australia, and what's your plans and futures regarding 11 matches before the World Cup?
I'm never satisfied in terms of losing. I hate losing. We hate losing as a team. Losing is not part of our vocabulary. We certainly don't prepare teams to lose. So losing 5-0 hurts incredibly hard. Incredibly hard. In terms of individual player plans, every one of our players that are going to go to the World Cup and are going to tour England, and that includes some reserve players, because I think during a World Cup you have injuries, you need players to come in at different times. We need those players fit and firing. So it'll probably, we're talking about 18 players here. We'll have individual player plans from today. Those players, I've already asked our skills coaches to give me what they think is necessary for every one of our players, and that might be death bowling, it might be variations, it might be bowling slow balls. Power hitting is an area we need to considerably work on. So I've asked our skilled coaches to give me those plans, and those plans we will start implementing in the next couple of days with each and every one of those players. Plus the fact that we need our players at optimum fitness level. We saw the difference in the field in terms of our normal players, our guys that we've worked with for 2 years, and players that have just come into our system. The gap is massive. The gap is massive. We can't have that ever happen again.
Maybe we have been trying for 3 years to make complete a squad of World Cup, but still I guess you are going to have some other experience in experiments in England just before the World Cup. Is it fair a national team, because people have been criticizing that you have been failed to form a winning squad for the World Cup?
I can tell you what the World Cup squad is now, but it's not at my place, and that's going to be Inzi's job to do to you guys down the line. We've planned for 2 years. We started with a squad in Champions Trophy. We've worked the squad in all conditions, through all formats for the last 2 years, to have a squad and team ready for this World Cup. That's been one of our primary goals. So in terms of experimentation, we're pretty clear on where we're going with it. So, but I'm not at liberty to tell you.
We have seen in the last series of Pakistan series that 2 or 3 matches Pakistan was very close to the win, and between 40 and 50 overs we have not seen some good wicketers. Like last we were having Afridi and Rahat, they can turn the game into moments. So what are your concerns about not having some big wicketers in the team that can get some 6s and 4s in the 40 and 50 overs? Because we are not having some big hitters who can go with an average of 10 or 12 in the last overs.
Yeah, that's a very good question. That's a very good question. That's one of our areas of concern. It is to make sure we try and make our guys that are going to bat in those positions as best they can. That was the reason we used Fahim Ashraf. That's the reason we used Fahim Ashraf in 2 games. Fahim Ashraf had done a hell of a lot of work. Reason we took Fahim there was to give him a little bit more batting experience. We've worked really hard with Imad Waseem in that role. Hassan can hit the ball long distances. Shadab's worked incredibly hard on that aspect of his game. Shoaib Malik, Mohammed Hafiz, if they in, we work consistently on their power hitting. But it is an area that is a worry, and we're gonna have to work incredibly hard with it, or look to rectify that.
Mehdi, as a coach, you have right to defend your player, but as a modern coach, it's your responsibility to take. It is your right to take responsibility of their weaknesses. I want to know what happened with the Pakistani cricket team. They lost against New Zealand, they lost against South Africa, and now they lost against against Australia. Another hand, if we see in performance in the Pakistan Super League, Watson was the #1, vintage Rahman was the second in the batting. look rocky on the wicketkeeper. What happened to the Pakistani cricketer you working for the last 3 years and we just had 1 month before World Cup?
No, I'm very comfortable with our young players. I'm very, very comfortable with our young players. We tried them.